Hello, today is Friday, April 22nd, 2022. My name
Yes.
is Larissa Garcia. I'm interviewing Jacob Longoria for the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. This is part of the Voces of an Oral History project for the pandemic in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Mr. Longoria, that this recorded interview will be placed in the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, especially given that your recording may appear online, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we are conducting this interview online, I need to record your consent. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are
Okay.
4 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University, Kingsville wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation at the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University. We will retain copyright of the interview and other materials you donate to the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. Question number 1. Do you give us consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University, Kingsville?
Yes.
Question number 2. Do you grant South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University, Kingsville copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
Yes.
Do you agree to allow South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University, Kingsville to post this interview on the internet, where it may be
Yes.
viewed by people around the world?
Yes. Can y'all post it on TikTok? I need clout.
Shut up. Question number 4. Do you grant South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University, Kingsville consent to share your interview and your materials with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas A&M? At the University of Texas at Austin, for inclusion
I got
in
my
the
book there.
Voces of the Pandemic Oral History Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
You said UT?
Yes.
So that means Matthew McConaughey is gonna see this? Yes,
Maybe.
all the yeses. Yes, consent.
Okay. Continuing on. We have many questions in a pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. The final storing of the pre-interview form will be at the South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. We will have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members so that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Jernigan Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at the South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University of Kingsville?
Yes.
On occasion, Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Not my phone number.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to begin the questions for this interview.
Okay.
So, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was kind of different, I guess, right?
Mhm.
A different experience, at least.
Yeah, like a whole different world.
Yes. So, how do you feel that COVID has affected you in the long run now that it's been 2 years into the pandemic?
In the long run, I guess I don't think anyone's as sociable as they used to be.
Mhm.
I used to be real social, always want to hang out with my friends and stuff. I think like every week me and the boys would get together And then COVID started picking up, and then obviously we couldn't do that anymore, and it was like that for a whole year, and then things started getting better, and then they got worse again. So I guess I just got used to like being alone, not going out as much, not hanging out with my friends as much. I just kind of became a loner, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. Um, do you feel as though things will ease up and maybe go back to as normal as they could get, or do you think that things will kind of stay as they are in this moment for a good while?
I think things are gonna be getting better soon. I mean, I feel like things have been getting better, as of late when it comes to COVID in 2022.
When first hearing about COVID-19, what were your initial thoughts about it? Did you think that it would actually make its way to South Texas?
Honestly, no. Like being 100% honest, I didn't think it would get as bad as it did. I figured it would have been contained pretty quickly, and then I remember hearing that first case in San Antonio. I actually kind of started to freak out a little bit because like that's not that far from where we're at. That's only like 2 hours away, like not far at all. And then it got to Corpus too, and then I kind of started freaking out even more. Like damn, this shit, it's actually real. It's coming our way. And then of course, we started getting cases in gym wells, and so like, that's whenever I kind of started like, hey, like it's pretty serious. It's getting real.
So you would say that that was when you realized that it was a serious virus, or would you say that you still never really considered it serious at all?
Um, I mean, in the beginning, I guess what I considered serious wasn't the virus itself, but was how quickly it was able to spread. Like it caught like wildfire, and like regardless of the survivability of what the virus is, obviously, you still don't want a whole lot of people to have it. You don't want it to spread because then, I mean, that's just more people getting sick, and then obviously look how many variants we have from it now too.
So now that we're about 2 years into the pandemic, I'm gonna start asking you questions about like daily impacts and stuff.
Okay.
Uh, you work at HEB currently. So with your current job as an employee at a grocery store, what was it like to see the transition between like early COVID and now kind of post COVID since your time there?
Um, well, I guess early COVID was crazy. It was almost a blur just because that's whenever they hired me, and they just like they threw me right in there. I remember I ended up working like for 6 hours on my training day because of how busy it was, and it was insane. It was insane. Lines were so long. Um, all the like all the orders that people would be getting, their baskets would be so full. It'd just be insane. Um, and it was a lot. It was almost overwhelming too, especially because like I didn't know how to bag or anything like that. I was like just putting. I remember this cashier, her name was Blanca. Like she got onto me because um I bagged something wrong, and then she kept looking and looking and reordering, and I don't know. I just got anxious and I walked away. But yeah, it was crazy. Early COVID was insane. It really was insane. And then now, I mean, of course, we're always busy at HEB, but now it's really not so bad. We're only like super busy on holidays or like the first of the month, not like every day whenever COVID was getting bad. Obviously, we have toilet paper now too, so that's good. I think some things still have stayed the same, like certain limits on meats and all that stuff. Um, but other than that, everything's for sure, like slowed down majorly.
So with since you started working at the beginning of COVID and previously you worked at Subway, there were there like more stresses on you as a worker within that shift when you transitioned into this job from the other one?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. Because I mean, Subway, just making sandwiches, making food, not nothing like HEB, having to bag things a certain way, having to do things a certain way, knowing how to talk to customers a certain way. Because I mean, at a fast food job, you can really talk to customers however you want. Obviously, they want you to be polite and stuff, but I mean, in the end, it's just a fast food job. It's not that big of a deal. You can talk like right now, 2022. I would get hired at a fast food job just to let out the anger I have from HEB, because it was completely different. You have to be a lot nicer. You have to be more on the ball too, especially at HEB. So the shift was that too. It was a little bit overwhelming just because, I mean, here had to be, or here HEB, was already like going crazy. Everyone was going crazy. So then now I'm in this whole new crazy environment, and then I have to bring like, I guess, my 100% too, which, being honest, I wasn't used to, because Subway was a very laid back job. Especially when COVID started too. When COVID started at Subway, we would literally do nothing. Like the entire shift would go by, and there would be maybe like 2 customers, 3 customers the most, because of everybody quarantining. And so like that, going to HEB was just a complete 180. Here I went from literally sitting watching movies in the back, to seeing like God knows how many people at once in the middle of a pandemic. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy.
So in the job sense, would you say that your mental health was pretty affected? Like, would you say you were more, I guess we already talked about stress, but would you say there were other things among stress that kind of affected you?
Obviously, I think it did affect my mental health, but it was for the better. Because I mean, in the end, I'd rather be at HEB where, like, yeah, it's a lot, it's overwhelming, but I'm doing something, I'm actually working. At Subway, it was fun, going into work and doing nothing, going into work, watching a movie in the back, hell, even making my own sandwich. That'll be the only sandwich I make that day because it'd be so slow. Yeah, it was fun, but also, after a while, that's not good for the work ethic. That's not good for, the mental health, because you get used to being that lazy. And then, I guarantee you, if I probably stayed at Subway any longer, um, before going to HEB, it would have affected my work ethic, because I would have gotten used to not doing work. I would go into work and then not want to actually be there, because I would have gotten used to it at Subway. So yeah, it did affect my mental health, with all the stress, but it was for sure for the better.
Earlier you mentioned that on your first day of training with HEB that they made you work after your first training session.
Mm.
No?
They didn't make me. I stayed myself.
Oh, so they asked if you could and you accepted?
Not even. I mean, they didn't ask. But they did say, your training's over, so if you want, you can go home, or if you want, you can, stay here and bag out a few orders, get some practice in. And I chose the latter, and I stayed. I stayed for 6 hours, yeah, because I got there at 1 and I left at 7.
Oh, okay. Okay. Speaking of just HEB as a whole, did you ever get the idea to quit because you felt like it was too much to handle at a time?
No. I mean, yeah, I think everyone thinks about quitting their job, especially customer service jobs. But no, I wouldn't say not because it was too much to handle. No, if anything, I would just want to quit just because people were, assholes.
Going on a different impact with COVID, how would you say COVID affected your relationships? Did it put any pause on your relationships due to quarantine and all of a sudden stopping your life?
Um, I wouldn't say pauses. No, not a pause. I think just because, like, with how advanced we are in technology, and like, how easy it is to stay in contact with someone. No, I wouldn't say nothing was put on pause. Just, I guess, rerouted would be a better term, because we had all, obviously we would always have plans. I just told you that me and the boys would hang out like every week, every other week. Um, so that would just have to transfer over to just, online. We would start playing video games more. We'd start Skyping more, and stuff like that. So it just changed my relationships, but not like paused them.
Okay. How did you cope with the fact that you couldn't see any of your friends and family, though? You could still Skype them, but you couldn't physically see them.
Shit, I started wearing less clothes around the house. No. Now that I think about it, I don't really know. Because it's not something I guess I notice in the moment. Maybe like looking back, yeah, I think during COVID I definitely started smoking more. Just because obviously there's nothing to do, and I think a lot of people had that problem too. Especially with how easy it is to like conceal it these days. I just started getting high more just because there was there was nothing to do. Um, couldn't go out anywhere. No gyms were open, no restaurants. No like I don't know recreational areas that they have. Like nothing was open, so all we could do was just sit in our rooms all day. Might as well get high out of it.
So I know that you have a very close relationship with your grandmother, and I was just wondering, did you stop seeing her when COVID came around to protect her?
Um, Maybe not to protect her because I mean I knew we were fine, but it's just also like why risk it? Especially I would think like with my luck something would happen. Like with my luck I would catch something from someone because I was already working at HEB. I would catch something from someone there or something like that.
Mhm. So after you decided that it was okay to start seeing her again, how long did it take before you actually like allowed yourself to see her, or did
Um,
you, like stop?
I mean I can't really truly answer that question because we would still see each other just less. And so I guess the best way to describe it was as things started letting up, she would just, come over more and more. That's the best way I could describe it.
Mhm. Do you feel as though there has now been a rift within your relationships?
Not at all. If
Would you say,
anything,
oh,
oh no, I'm sorry, keep going.
no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say not a rift, but if anything, some of my relationships got stronger because obviously there's no hanging out as a group anymore. Or at the time there was no hanging out as a group anymore. So it was kind of, I guess, pick and choose it seems like a kind of shitty way to describe it, but like, obviously when you have a friend group, certain friends are closer to each other than others. And so like I would hang out with the ones I was closer to with, and it would just be just us because, COVID, not a whole lot of people can hang out together. So it'd be just us. And then, we'll just get tighter like that.
So you wouldn't say that there was any rift at all in any relationship in general?
No, not because of COVID.
During COVID, you can now see a difference between going out in the world and going out in the world prior to the start of COVID. What would you say is a difference?
Um, the biggest one, everyone, or not everyone now, but I mean, there's still gonna be people with like masks on. Like about 50% of the people now wear masks. So obviously that's way different than back then. I remember it had actually gone to a point so bad where like whenever I would try to remember things, like everyone would have masks on in my memories. Because I was just so used to it now at that point. I think I want to say some places still practice like the major social distancing, 6 feet apart, stuff like that. But I think as of late, other than those two things, it started to look more and more normal than it was before COVID.
And how would you say that COVID has affected your daily ability to socialize?
Um, I don't think that it really has. Not nowadays. Maybe like peak COVID, yeah. Um, like obviously, it's peak COVID, so we've been quarantining. We haven't been seeing anyone. So maybe like back then, yeah, interacting with someone would have been really, really awkward. Especially because would be like half of my brain would be like, oh, a person. It's been so long. What do I say? And then the other half would be like, hey, get the hell away from them. They could be sick.
Would you say that there was like times when you got to see somebody where you just wanted to like talk to them because it was some sort of social stimulation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like whenever I would see a friend at the store after so long or something like that.
Mhm. Who were you able to keep your most interactions with, would you say?
I'm sorry?
Who were you able to keep most of interactions with?
Mainly just like my homies. My best friend Javi. Since we had lived in two different we lived since 2019, we lived in two different towns. So we would already Skype a lot as is. So whenever just COVID hit, we would just keep Skype. We just got Skyped even more.
Was it hard to stay away from those friends and family who you wanted to see?
Of course, yeah. Especially because like with the way humans are, you tell them to do not to do something, they're just gonna go and do it. So yeah, of course, you have the government telling all these people like, hey, you can't go out, blah blah. And of course, there's always gonna be people that don't listen. And believe me, I was very tempted to at times too. Whenever things were getting real bad, just to go out and see my friends. Like, oh, 99% survivability rate. Well, who cares? Let's hang out anyways. But no, luckily I never did any of that because it was a very what's the word? Contagious virus. There we go.
Mm-hmm. During the peak of COVID, how would you say it changed the way you would exit your home?
Peak COVID, always have a mask on. I would put the mask on before I even like walked out the door, just so I wouldn't forget it.
When wearing a mask was mandated in Texas, how did you feel like that? Did you actually want to wear the mask?
I mean, at first, no, but I don't think, anyone wants to. No one wants to be forced to wear something. But as time went on, and things started getting worse, yeah, I opted for the mask to be safe.
When wearing a mask in Texas, what kind of adjustment was that for you? Was it like a hard one, easy one, or was it
Oh, it
kind
was
of...
very hard. It was very hard because you know how hot it gets in this state. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah, that's the one thing that sucked the most is having to wear a mask like anywhere like I had to that was outside. Like, oh my, like, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's the one thing that sucked was wearing the mask in the heat. Or as a bagger, when I would push baskets outside and it was so hot and then I had to come inside and put on a freaking mask. It was terrible. But other than that, it was all right, I guess. Wasn't too bad. Just the heat.
Another effect of COVID, would you say that it hindered your ability to take your vacation time and actually have like a week or so to just take a breather and relax somewhere for vacation?
Uh-uh.
No.
I mean, I guess it sucked. Like, you couldn't go to like other places, but like other than that, not really. Because I mean, shit, a vacation to me was like just relaxing at home. I'll take that as a vacation any day. But it's like, yeah, it wasn't really that bad.
Did you have any planned vacations at the start of COVID that you had to postpone?
Yeah, me and my family were supposed to go see Luke Combs in San Antonio, and then COVID hit.
There wasn't like to another state or anything like that?
Me and my homie wanted to go see The Weeknd, and then he had to postpone that. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
I'm gonna start asking you some questions about the education impacts from COVID.
Hmm.
When COVID first hit, were you still in school?
Mhm.
Like, were you in college?
Yeah, I was a sophomore.
Were you did you still have to go to face, or did you have to adjust to online?
We switched to online. I don't remember how much COVID was a thing before we switched to online, but we did switch to online.
What was your opinion on the remote learning? Did you think it was a good learning source, or did you feel like face to face was much better?
Oh, face to face is way better. But I mean, you got to work with what you got.
So both of your sisters were still in school as well. How do you feel like that kind of impacted their learning? That was like primary education.
I know my youngest sister, Felisa, was glad to freaking stay inside, be on an iPad. Mia, not so much. She's the more sociable one. So she kind of hated it. You know, like she missed seeing her friends every day and all that stuff. Felisa, she didn't care. As long as she still had Roblox, she was good.
Roblox. Did you think that the education did enough to ensure the kids' safety and the learning within the years of the pandemic?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you think that the Board of Education did enough to ensure the kids' safety and learning process within the years of the pandemic?
I suppose, yeah. Because I mean, it's not like there was much to do. You know, like there's only so much you can do in a situation like that. You know, and there's only like, because I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can do. Because obviously, you know, we're not advanced enough to, you know, have like a holographic teacher in your room or have the students like holograms in a room or something like that. So yeah, I think, you know, they did the best with what they had.
You said that you were still in school when COVID hit. Would you say
ma'am.
that? I'm sorry?
I said, yes, ma'am.
Would you say that your education was disrupted because of COVID?
Yeah, because after that I stopped going to school, and then I don't know, I haven't gone back. So I guess I don't know. But it's also easy for me to just blame COVID and not myself. But yeah, I think for sure, if COVID didn't happen, I would still be in school.
Okay, I'm gonna switch topics now, and I'm gonna start asking you questions about the vaccinations for COVID. What are your feelings about the vaccinations?
I think the vaccine itself is great. But being honest, the one thing I am iffy about is all the boosters. I don't know if this sounds all conspiracy theorist, but just the idea of the government pumping out some medicine like every other month, saying, "Oh yeah, you need to take this booster now. Oh, you need to take this booster," because I've heard talk or seen on various news media outlets like talk of a second booster, stuff like that, and just the idea of like the government like just going out saying like, "Oh yeah, here's this new booster, y'all got to take this one now, take this one now." I don't know, it's just that idea just doesn't sit right with me, of just injecting yourself with some medicine the government's pumping out like every other like couple months. Because I mean, like there's already talk of a second booster, and it hasn't even been a whole year since the vaccine came out, I don't think. Or if it's been a year, it hasn't been that much long afterwards. So I think, you know, like just the base vaccine is fine. And then I don't know, just anything after that is a little bit too iffy for me. That and my family, literally the day after they got their boosters, they got COVID. And I didn't get my booster. So there's also that I don't know, it's kind of superstitious for me.
I was gonna ask, because you were saying that they bring up like new boosters every other month or so, right?
Well, not every other, I mean, it's not that much, but like, you know, the first booster was announced, it feels like it feels like it, because like whenever I heard news about a second booster, I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, like the first one barely just came out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just gonna bring up the fact that it's kind of like they do that with flu shots, don't they? They have like a new variant of flu shots. So I suppose I was thinking about it in that way more so, but I understand where you're coming from. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Do you think those who are opposed to getting the vaccination have a reasonable stance for that?
If they don't want to get just a normal vaccine, just a vaccine by itself, obviously, yeah, it's your body. You can choose what you want to put into it. But I really think everyone should get vaccinated at least. If you want to go and do all the boosters and all that, that's your choice. But I mean, I think at the very least, everyone should get a vaccine, because I truly, I don't think there isn't a real reason not to get the COVID vaccine, not the base vaccine.
Okay. Speaking of vaccinations, I'm going to start asking questions about the overall healthcare system during COVID. So, with the rise of COVID-19, do you think that it's made the flaws within our healthcare system more visible?
I want to say it has, but I can't truly answer that question, because that is so rude. I'm so sorry. I want to say it has, but yeah, truly, I can't answer that question, because that's not something I paid attention to. But I mean, obviously, with the way the healthcare system works, less fortunate families aren't going to be able to get the care that they need. And I think that, yeah, that's a big problem that was brought to light, because obviously, universal healthcare has its flaws too. Just look at Canada. Yeah, it's free, but I mean, look at the quality you're getting. But ours isn't perfect either, because a lot of people aren't getting the healthcare they need, because they can't afford it. And that's just that's ridiculous. Bernie Sanders said healthcare is a right, and he's right. That everyone is entitled to healthcare. So yeah, I think it did bring out some flaws in the way ours is kind of up and running.
With the start of COVID, did you have health insurance, and have you maintained health insurance now?
Yes, and yeah, I have maintained it.
Okay. Did you get checkups, like routine checkups? Would you say that was affected with the way?
No, I never really got routine checkups or anything like that.
I'm gonna ask again. Mentally, how would you say that COVID-19 affects you in a general speak instead of just work?
I for sure became more wary of other people. I mean, I can't, it's hard to, I don't know, I guess it's hard to describe, to look back on something so long, how my mind was too long ago. I don't know, I feel like I became a little bit more pessimistic, for sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit more of a loner now. But other than that, I don't really think so too much.
So you would say you saw more prominent signs of depression, anxieties, and isolation within yourself? Within those isolation period states, did you ever feel that you definitely were getting too lonely? And did you ever reach out to friends or family as well to help out with that?
Well, I wouldn't say anything like that, but yeah, of course, whenever I felt like, I was getting not too lonely, but whenever I felt like, hey, it's kind of been a little bit too long since you've seen someone or hung out with someone, yeah, I would hit up more people more often just to see who would want to go out, almost like, just throwing a bunch of fishing lines out.
Within COVID, you said that you definitely saw signs of depression and anxiety. So would you say that you considered actually reaching out to a therapist to maybe address the topic of your mental health?
Oh, well,
No.
like that. No.
All right.
I mean,
Um,
because in the end, it's just gonna be you. The therapist ain't gonna be there. The therapist is, I mean, yeah, I mean, of course they help. Like I'm not knocking anyone for getting therapy, because I mean, I myself, I really have thought about it. I have thought about it, but in the end, the therapists are just there to get paid. They're just there to get paid like because the moment you can't give them the money they want, they're not gonna be there for you. They're not gonna actually care about it. So like, yeah, of course, it's nice to have a professional to talk to, and it's good to have a professional to talk to. Of course, there have been times where, yeah, I would have loved a therapist to help with my problems, but in the end, I made it out fine without a therapist. So I mean, no, I don't, I wouldn't say they're exactly necessary. I mean, but that's just me though too. Everyone's different. Like obviously, some people are firm believers in therapists, and I mean, if that works for them, that's great, but just not for me.
did your mental health throughout the pandemic give you any extra challenges within your everyday life?
Um, yeah, I suppose sort of, maybe not challenges, but I guess just change things up. Uh, like I said, I started getting high way, way more, and so I guess it affected it in a sense that like I was high pretty much everywhere I went.
Did you get COVID? Have you caught COVID?
No, ma'am.
No?
2 years
Okay.
in, yes, baby.
Have you ever received a COVID test though, or like had to get one? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, did you ever schedule one?
No.
Oh, you just picked up an at-home one?
Mm. The first COVID test I took was whenever I got tonsillitis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they tested me at the doctor's office, and then I took two more this past year after a retreat I went on. I got real sick on the last day, and so I left. And it was just like a sinus and throat infection. It was right here. It was terrible. But yeah, I got tested I tested myself when I got straight home, and then they tested me again at the urgent care clinic I went to.
Okay. So, did you ever have to actively go out and look for a COVID test?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Um, when going out to get your vaccination, was it kind of an easy process?
Easy but tedious. Not even tedious. Easy, just I don't know. No one wants to sit in a car for like 2 hours.
Yeah, because they were you got yours at the fairgrounds here in Alice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember those lines were super long. How long would you say that you waited actually to get your vaccine?
About like, well, the whole process is probably about like 2 hours.
It's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you said that you were on a retreat it was for a church retreat.
Praise God.
So would you say that your religious beliefs actually helped with the assimilation of the pandemic for your daily life?
Because by the time the pandemic was peaking, I wasn't really that religious.
So would you say that COVID made you more religious or less religious?
Probably less. Probably less. Yeah, I think anyone who was religious at the time definitely was like, why God? So yeah, it kind of did make me a little bit less religious, and then now just a bunch of other personal problems in my life too.
Okay. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about politics with COVID.
Oh wow.
How do you believe that the politics affected how COVID was handled? Do you think that they could have done better or maybe
Oh
been a
yeah.
little less strict?
No, I think for sure, coming as a Republican, the Trump administration was terrible with COVID. They did they did nothing until it was absolutely too late. Um, so yeah, things could have been way better with COVID.
Mm. Did you think that we should have been under lockdown for longer?
Um, yeah, I think so. Because you know what? I don't know. It's a tough question to ask because I was gonna say, look at Australia. At least in the first time around, they were under complete lockdown and they got rid of COVID.
I think
But
that
now
was
they're
New
kind of a hot
Zealand.
mess. Yeah, that was New Zealand. I thought it was
I
Australia.
think so. I think it was New Zealand.
Hmm. I'd read it was Australia. Either way,
Yeah, either way.
shit. I was kind of going off on Australia now because I thought it was Australia. now, okay. But I mean, a lockdown would have helped, but I don't know. It's hard to say because of just the way people are. Like, I mean, yeah, look at Australia. Like their lockdown, like they're so heavy on lockdown, but also like it doesn't even feel like a democracy there anymore. You can't step outside your house. You literally can't step outside your house without a mask, or you'll get fined or you'll get in trouble for it. So I don't know. Like it is hard to say. I feel like on paper, a longer lockdown would have been good, but I mean, who knows how people would have reacted.
That's true. That's true. So within your area, what did you think about the politics within like your city, state, and the country as a whole with the policies for COVID?
Um, City wise, it was all right. You know, here in Alice, a lot of places that were asked people to wear their masks, and a lot of them complied. Of course, you're gonna have everyone now and then that doesn't want to, but city wise, it was all right. State wise, it's a little bit more different. Obviously, you're gonna have smaller towns that are all hell bent on not wearing masks. You're gonna have people in cities that want them, people in cities that don't. It's just and I think it could have been handled a little bit more better because I know Abbott wanted to. It was like summer 2021. I don't. It was sometime in 2021. Abbott was already planning to open things up whenever like things shouldn't have been getting planned to open up. And you could tell because as soon as he went through with all these statements and all that, COVID spiked again, and it was absolutely terrible.
Okay, so I'm gonna start going into the idea of work and its impacts with COVID. How would you say COVID affected your work? Did you lose work or did you have to receive like a pay cut with either job?
Oh no, HEB was paying us COVID pay. So I think when I first got hired, I was making like 13.50, and I was working a lot too. I was working like a lot. Like I was getting my 40 like pretty much every week for like months.
Okay. How did the nature of switching jobs change? Would you say that the way for applying jobs was different from pre-COVID to now?
Um, Being honest, I wouldn't know because HEB has like a double interview. So you have to do an online interview where you answer various questions and like speak into a camera. Um, and then you have to do like an actual interview right after that. So I don't know, like if they've been doing that since before COVID or when it was introduced. So I really couldn't answer that question.
Okay. So I know that HEB's hiring process at the start of COVID was pretty different, where you would do just the online interview and then you could be hired on the spot. Did you have the online and in-person interview, or did you just like have the online and be hired right then and there?
Um, no, I had the online and the in-person interview.
Okay, okay. So would you say that your finances have been affected within the past 2 years of COVID?
I mean, yeah, essentially just with everything going up, like everything getting so expensive and stuff. Yeah, like grocery trips are like way more expensive now than they were back then.
Did you ever have to help your family with their financial situations? Like, did you have
Yeah, yeah. Especially when it was like really hard to get things. You know, my mom would have to order like stuff like from like different websites. So I'd have to end up paying for some of that stuff too.
Did you help just your immediate family, or did you also help distant?
No, mainly just immediate family.
Oh, okay. Would you say that your work ethic has changed? I know you mentioned that a little earlier.
Yeah, for sure. I always try to stay on top of the ball with things at work. You know, try to get things done early so I can get out on time. Just trying to get things done right the way things or the way HEB wants things to be. And then keeping things up to like customer standards too. Even
Would you say the demands at work have changed as well?
I think so. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty sure before all this, HEB was like a little bit more chill. Um, Everyone I work with now, they kind of got hired at COVID, so it's hard to say. But like, just from what I would notice when I would go shopping, everything wasn't so crazy. People were a lot more relaxed. The workers were a lot more relaxed. Stuff like that.
Earlier, you made a joke about the toilet paper shortage, and you were hired during that time. So, how did it make you feel like about that? Just the ransacking, especially of the toilet paper.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb. It's really dumb. Like of all things to like go crazy over white toilet paper.
Yeah. Um, Personally, I remember the first day that people started freaking out and ransacking. Do you remember that as well? Or
No, I wasn't in HEB at the time.
HB yet? Oh, okay.
I was still at Subway.
Did you like visit the store whenever it was like that though?
Um, Maybe not that bad, but whenever I did go in for like my interviews and all that, it was really really busy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Within the beginnings of the pandemic, the George Floyd protests had actually began. How did you feel about that, especially with the like early stages of COVID being a pandemic?
I was just like, I guess just like what's the word? Like shocked at how everyone stopped giving like a shit about COVID and just started doing all that.
Mhm. How did it make you feel though, like all of that going on, just
Uh, I mean, like I feel like I knew shit was gonna change. Like I knew things were actually gonna happen just because like of how big it was. I knew like it wasn't just gonna be like I know with the this was years ago. Brown. I can't remember the first name, but the last name was Brown.
was it Travis?
I don't remember, but
I know
something
what you're talking
Brown.
about though. It
Yeah,
was
it was
in
years ago.
2013, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
around that time. How like all the protests. It was the Ferguson riots. It was the Ferguson
Oh yeah,
riots.
yeah,
How
yeah.
like all that happened and then nothing really changed. But like I knew like with the way things were now, like how big everything was, like I knew for sure like things were gonna change. Like stuff was gonna happen.
Yeah, and then we actually had like the protest here in our town in Alice. That
Oh
was
yeah, I
that was
remember
crazy.
that. I remember that.
um, would you like say that you actually agreed with those protests though?
Protests, yes, not the riots, not burning buildings and shit like that, not destroying restaurants, all that. No, but actual peaceful protests, yeah. Like they
Also,
destroyed a Whataburger for what, bro? Like unnecessary.
um, also on January 6th of 2021,
A crazy
just
day.
over a year ago, we had the riot of the Capitol. Did you feel like COVID was still too much of like a
No,
problem
no
for
one
that to
gave a
happen?
shit about COVID.
Yeah.
No one gave a shit about it.
How did you feel about that riot though? How was that one?
That was crazy. That, like, I didn't think people would actually be doing that dumb shit, dude. But yeah, and then I mean, they got shot, and I mean, yeah, it
Was
happened. Like that's what you get. Like, why would you storm the Capitol? That's terrible.
there was just one, right? Or like one got shot, or was it multiple? I can't recall.
No, I think it was just the one girl that got shot. But I mean, hey, like you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It's ridiculous.
Also, I think like a month after that, in February, we had the big freeze as well, which was
The
also amongst
freeze,
COVID.
the freeze,
Yes. So
the deep freeze.
do you feel as though that put people at a higher risk for being exposed to COVID, especially since
Um,
people were bunking with each other who had power and showering at other people's houses who had like
yeah,
water? Yeah.
yeah, I think for sure it could, yeah, increase the risk of catching it.
Mhm. Do you feel like the like ransacking also happened during that freeze as well because people were like afraid and stuff? Do you feel like that kind of came from like that fear of COVID as well? You know, because like people were
I
already
would,
freaking out with COVID and then
I
they,
mean, I get what you're saying. How like people already panicked and then they just panicked even more. So I get what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. I guess I was trying to say like, do you feel like people kind of got those little like characteristics of panic more so?
I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Um, with there was a bunch of shortages actually coming from COVID, and we also saw a lot of shortage of baby formulas as well. Um, did you ever like be on the lookout for formula and maybe like help someone out who needed it?
Um, no, just because I mean, like, no one, we don't have any babies anymore in my family, so like, that's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like,
not
I
even
wouldn't.
like sorry, not even like friends who had babies because you don't have friends that have any children really, not around.
Not really. Yeah, no, not young. I
Mm.
mean, not babies. Yeah, everyone like all the family friends are pretty much done. I think the only one was CJ, my friend CJ, but he lives all the way in Florida, so it's not like I can do anything.
Mhm. Okay, this one's kind of a vague, broad question, but is there a specific memory that you have within the duration of COVID that makes you kind of realize how bizarre this whole thing is?
Um, just mainly people stealing toilet paper and all that.
Mhm.
Do that, like, yeah, that's the kicker. You know, it's a pandemic. You know, let's all wipe our asses.
Okay. And then continuing on to that, is there like a conversation with somebody that you feel really captures like the struggles of the pandemic as well?
No,
No?
no,
Not
none that
even
I
with
can,
like a random customer at the store, like HEB?
no, none that I
No?
can think of.
Okay. All right. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I have not asked yet?
No, none that I can think of.
No? Alrighty. Well, that is going to conclude our interview then for today. Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.